This is After the Gridiron, a podcast featuring interviews with retired football players. If you're a fan of After the Gridiron, make sure you subscribe to the show to ensure that you won't miss an episode. Today's episode is sponsored by Symphonies. Symphonies is an online store that provides custom clothing and accessories. They have a number of quality products available at affordable prices. They offer custom, unique, funny, and inspirational products that you won't find anywhere else. So go to www.symphonies.ca to shop for your next purchase. And as a special offer for our listeners, enter promo code GRIDIRON to get 15% off your purchase. So there's no excuse not to check it out. Again, that's www.symphonies.ca. Symphonies. Great products, great prices. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Lyle Green, and today we have as our guest Dennis Frank, a former NFL O-lineman. He played 5 years in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles and Detroit Lions. He was an undrafted free agent in 1975 and played collegiately at the University of Michigan, where he was a first-team All-Big Ten center and also a second-team All-American as a center as well. So, Dennis, thank you for coming on the show.
Great, Lau. It's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me and look forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, me as well. I'm definitely looking forward to it as well. So, we always start with back at the beginning, how things got started in football for you. So, just explain to everyone how you got into football.
You bet. First and foremost, I'm a son of a steel worker and grew up in western Pennsylvania in a town called Pittsburgh. And we actually in western Pennsylvania were known for football, bringing out some of the greats like Joe Namath and Mike Ditka, Joe Montana, a lot of people coming.
Dan Marino.
Yeah, Danny Marino, Tony Dorsett, a lot of good athletes. In fact, that area, while we were very proud to be from that area, we were always looking for a way to get out of the area.
Oh, yeah.
With my dad being a steel worker and my sister and brother spending time there, I didn't really want to follow in his footprints and being a steel worker. So it all became a good way to move out.
Exactly.
But anyway, it was fun, and we grew up. Actually, I started playing early on in Clairton, Pennsylvania. I played with the McKeesport Little Tigers. Went on, so I started when I was basically 8 years old, and have been playing ever since. Through my high school, college, and then professional career. It was just what we did. It was play every sport that you could. And when it came to football season, everybody plowed out there to be a part of something when it came to football.
Yeah. So I guess football was the kind of the main sport in Pittsburgh, in the area.
Absolutely. Of course, we followed the Pittsburgh Pirates back in the day when they won the World Series with Roberto Clemente and Bill Mazeroski. It was a great community of sports throughout the Western Pennsylvania area.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Did you play baseball as well growing up?
I did. I played baseball. I was a third baseman and catcher. I also worked with track and shot and discus, and very proud to say I was one of the top throwers in the state of Pennsylvania, and gone to the state track meets and won one state track meet in discus, so that was pretty cool. But back in the day, Lyle, we grew up by playing multiple sports. It wasn't specializing like it is today.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely the way it should be in regards to sports, having that background in all different areas of sports, because you develop different muscles and different skills in the different sports. So I think it's definitely the best way to go to play all sorts of different sports. Me as a kid, I grew up loving sports, playing lots of different sports. I did soccer and I did hockey. I played hockey. I played basketball. I played all the different sports. So I think it's definitely the best way to to grow up to have that background in different sports
I'm
and not
going to.
specialize.
I gotta. You bring up hockey, and I'm assuming that's ice hockey, being in Canada, eh?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
I grew up on figure skates. My mom was the national champion figure skater for Germany.
Oh,
And
wow.
my mom and dad met during World War II. And when she came over to the United States, my brother and I went to the rink with her all the time. And actually, she brought us up to be figure skaters. And ice dance is very popular. We used to be the only guys to be partners for the girls coming up. So it was a good deal.
Yeah.
That all changed when I got to high school, though.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, cool. So you have some figure skating background. So did
Yeah,
you?
I think it really helped me with balance and mobility, actually, which was a big part of one of the things that made me stand out as a linebacker and offensive lineman.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Doing all the excuse me, did you do jumps and all the different
Yeah,
twists and oh,
absolutely.
wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Although every time I put hockey skates on, I fell on my ass. It was
I'm about
just
to say,
damn picks.
yeah, yeah. Well, hard to do the jumps with hockey skates.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was good. It was good.
Oh, cool. All right, so let's go into your college career and playing at the University of Michigan. I'm guessing that you got recruited a little bit with a few teams or a few schools. Sorry. So how did the recruiting process go, and how did you end up choosing Michigan?
Well, it's a great story, and it doesn't really happen today. But growing up in Western Pennsylvania and excelling at the high school level, I had 112 scholarship offers,
Oh,
and
wow.
uh, it was just crazy because of my participation both in track and football. And it was funny. I took 19 trips, if you can imagine that. It's not even allowed today. But I was with some of the all-time greats. I'm going to just name a few. I went down to University of Alabama and met Bear Bryant.
Oh,
I
wow.
was at Ohio State with Woody Hayes. Penn State with Joe Paterno. These coaches came to my house too. Walked the campus with Eric Precision at Notre Dame.
Oh,
It was
wow.
just amazing. John McKay. Bobby Bowden was at West Virginia. He wasn't yet in Florida State, but Bobby was a frequent visitor. Morgantown was not far from where I grew up, it's just across the border. But it's ironic that Michigan was not even in my final three picks. And Bo Schembechler, the great Bo Schembechler, called up my mother. He didn't call me up. He called my mother and said, Inga, my mother's name was Ingeborg, and said, Inga, it would be a travesty if your son didn't see Michigan. It's education, and we play at the big house. It would be something that he could not make a decision without seeing all the great schools. And so my mom convinced me to take a trip to Michigan. Now, I had no more weekends to go out, so I literally went to the University of Michigan on a Monday and Tuesday. Uh,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And I went up there. Great story. The great Reggie McKenzie. He blocked for O.J. Simpson, was offensive guard, and Tom Coyle. Both of them went on to have wonderful careers in the NFL. And they took me out. Coach gave them $100. Go take them out. And I didn't know any better, but they bought a couple bottles of Boone's Farm, got me a little bit tipsy, put me to bed early. They went out and had a good time. They woke me up the next morning and said, "You had a great time last night." They showed me
Quite the
around.
recruiting trip.
Telling you, one more recruiting trip. Yeah. So anyway, you would be surprised what the colleges do these days when your recruits come out there. But I had my meeting with Bo, but it was after we visited the stadium. And if you've never been at the Big House at the University of Michigan, which is what we call our stadium, back then in 1971, when I was coming out of high school, it was the largest stadium in the United States other than the Rose Bowl. And the Rose Bowl had about 400 more seats. But we filled up 104,000 people every week, every game there.
Wow, even back then is packed like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And when you look at the stadium, Lyle, it doesn't even look like it's very high. It's in a deep hole. It might be a story and a half tall, but then when you walk in, it just goes down, and it is just awesome. So I walked in, I walked to the middle of the field on the Big M, and I looked around, and it was very impressive. And up until now, all the universities were saying, you're going to be a great linebacker, you're going to be good, you're going to be able to really contribute. But when I went to Bo, I sat in his office, and he looked at me. He says, so you're Denny Franks. They called me Denny back then, not Dennis. And he says, so you're Denny Franks. He says, I hear you're pretty good, but I don't know if you're good enough to play at Michigan, And he just rubbed me. Any great player gets basically inspired when people doubt their abilities.
So challenge them, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so he says, I don't know if you're good enough to play here, but I'm willing to give you a shot, And believe it or not, that was what closed me. When I went back home, I was talking to the family about where to go. And it was all about getting an education in the field of business and then playing big-time football. And my brother basically convinced me. He said, why do you want to be a little fish in a big sea? Go somewhere small, be a big fish in a little pond, I said, God, no, that's just not what I really want to do. I want to go for it,
Yeah.
And that's why I chose Michigan. And good education, good football, and I got challenged right from day one.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think as athletes, we love to, especially the better athletes, we love the challenge and love to be challenged and to have that that ability to be with the top level players and athletes, and to see yourself and challenge yourself to see if you can compete with them and be with them. I think that's definitely something that a lot of the great athletes like to do, and I guess that's something you chose to do going to Michigan.
Yeah, and you know what it's about. Testing yourself. If you're going to train now, if you're the athlete that you see yourself, envision yourself going to do great things, you want to be challenged. If you're working out, if you're paying the price, don't you want to be measured? How good are you? And throughout my life, that's what I've taken. That discipline and that competitive spirit. Not so much that I had to be the best, but I had to be the best person I could be.
Yeah, exactly. You want to push yourself to the limits and see, I don't know, what kind of athlete you could be. So that was definitely a good thing in Michigan. So talk about your career at Michigan and how things went with playing with one of the great coaches of all time, Bo Schembechler. That must have been a great experience.
Yeah, in fact, the winningest, more wins than any other university since football began.
Oh, wow.
The tradition was amazing. It's right up there with Notre Dame and Ohio State and all those other great schools, Penn State. But what really, Michigan just offered a big diversity. There was over 45,000 undergrads and another 15 to 20,000 graduate students. So it was the whole city of Ann Arbor. And it was truly a college environment. But I got to tell you, it was my first exposure to marijuana. Ann Arbor, Michigan, I'll never forget it. Back in the 70s, they were famous for having the hash festival there, literally where people would bring hashish from around the world and would go right in the middle of campus, and none of the law enforcement would go there. And it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. You want to talk about coming up maybe with a beer every once in a while. You go to Michigan, you've got your whole array of radical lesbians to Black Panthers to hash festivals. It was an enlightenment for sure.
Oh, I can imagine. Quite the scene there, yeah.
Oh, wow. But I went as a linebacker. I was 6'1", 220 pounds coming out, and I played offensive guard and linebacker in high school. And the plan was that they played an odd defense, a five-man front with two inside linebackers, and there was a great linebacker by the name of Steve Stranko that came in the same as I did, and he and I played linebacker as freshmen on the freshman team. Freshmen were not allowed to play yet in varsity football when I played. Today, freshmen can play, and most athletes that come in on scholarship, if you don't play your freshman year, you get redshirted, so you get 5 years to play.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good. But I had one of the most disappointing sophomore years. They changed me from middle linebacker to offensive center, a position I never played. Almost quit, almost left, some of the great coaches helped me get through that, helped me get off the ledge. And they helped me understand that, hey, Coach Sandbackler feels that you can contribute as an offensive lineman because we have a lot of depth at linebacker and,
Yeah.
and all that good stuff. But I went from going to be a starter to the fifth team center. There was
Oh, wow.
four people in front of me, and I never played the position before going into spring ball. So had to really learn how to, imagine this. You stand up as a linebacker, you're clocking people. Now you're bent over. You've got a set of hands on your ass, and you got to snap the ball and block. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a
Quite the position change, yeah.
difference here, you know. So, and there's a whole skill set. I was one of the first pooling centers that ever left and left the line of scrimmage. Usually it was just straight on blocking, but I got the hang of it, and I worked my way up to our second team, playing behind a senior, and I started getting play time the end of the year, more play time as a junior, and then ultimately became the starter halfway through my junior year and then into my senior year. But it was really something. That transition almost broke me. My message to your listeners is real clear. You got to have faith that the coach knows what he's doing, and if he sees that ability that you can make a transition, you got to believe in that. Otherwise, it can destroy a career.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Having good coaches makes a big difference in their experience and knowing players' strengths and what they can be good at and excel at makes a big difference. And if they kind of see you doing something and seeing you have the ability to do something, yeah, it's
Uh,
definitely a
I,
good idea to trust them.
I do want to tell you a story that happened at the University of Michigan, and this was happens to a lot of ball players that go away and they leave their high school sweeties. And I guess going into my sophomore year, my high school love of my life broke off our relationship, and it just made my football go down the toilet. I was not performing, so Bo calls me in his office and he says, "You got girl troubles?" He just looked at me. I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I noticed because you're playing, you're playing," and that's how he talked about it. He would not hesitate to tell you what was going on anytime.
Yeah.
And he said, then he started talking to me like a father. He says, "Son, you got to understand." He says, "This is going to happen in your young life. You haven't even met the woman that's going to end up." He says, "You got to remember, women are like streetcars. There'll be another one coming by every 10 minutes." Then he said, then he goes to me. He says, "Get your head out of your ass now. Go play some football."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely having coaches are definitely more than just coaches. They also know help us out in life, and they train us up to be young men, and they're responsible in the communities and stuff. So the lessons we learn from them aren't just in football on the field, but also off the field as well, for sure.
Absolutely. That was something that was true throughout my career. Very thankful for that.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to your professional career and how that went for you. I know you're an undrafted free agent, so making it to a team wasn't something that was guaranteed for you, being an undrafted free agent. So how do you overcome the odds and making it to the NFL?
It was funny because, and this is how it works. Anybody that's come out and you play with a team that gets you noticed, and um, teams actually came to me and said, "We're going to draft you. It's not going to be in the early rounds." He said, "We're still a little hesitant about your size." I was now just about 6'2". I was playing at 245 pounds, and I was rather small for a center.
Yeah,
But
245. That's
yeah,
small for a center.
right. And so, but that gave me a lot of hope. And so I went through the entire draft, no calls. And then as soon as the draft was over, I got a call from about every team. And my agent basically broke it down to the Philadelphia Eagles and Minnesota Vikings, identifying the center position as a potential break-in area that the current offensive linemen backing the starter were people that were on the fence. So I ended up choosing Philadelphia over Minnesota at the time. Probably because I'm from Pennsylvania. Not I grew up a Steeler fan, but I figured Pennsylvania is pretty close to home.
Pretty close, yeah.
Absolutely. So I went to Philadelphia, and it was I made an impact. I mean, when I went in there, the Philadelphia Eagles were 4-12, and Mike McCormick was the head coach at the time. But the Eagles were not very good. Their last championship was in 1960, and now it's 1975. And 15 years went by without winning a division or getting into the playoffs and winning any type of championship. And so the fans were loyal, but the fans were critical. I don't know if you've heard about Philadelphia Eagle fans, but they don't hesitate.
Oh, I've heard about them, yeah.
I mean, it was the first stadium that put literally a courtroom and a jail in because the fans got.
Oh, wow.
They cut you off and they get you right there, trout, and throw you in jail and then fine you and let you loose. But yeah, we have that famed Christmas time where we were throwing snowballs at Santa Claus when he came out. But they are very fair fans. They know their game. And when you put out a good product, even if you lose, they're going to be behind you.
Yes.
So camp was pretty good, and I was moving up the ladder, and it was going into the last couple weeks of camp. I was close, to making the team, and the Philadelphia Inquirer came up to me and said, "Well, Dennis, it looks like you got a great shot at making the team. If you can have one thing happen over these next 2 weeks, what would it be?" Now, any smart individual would have said just to be able to make the Philadelphia Eagles would be great. Well, I wasn't so smart. I said, well, the one thing that I want to do is knock Bill Bergey on his ass. Now, Bill Bergey was an all-pro middle linebacker that played for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was good. He was about 265 pounds, and he could move. He was about 6'3", 265, which back in the 70s, those were really strong
That's
size.
big for a linebacker, yeah.
Well, he saw the next day in the paper where the headline was, "Franks wants to knock Berkey on ass." And that caused one of the worst days of my life at practice because we must have got into 3 fights that day.
Oh, wow.
It was really funny. And just so happened, he turns around after that day, and I sort of got the crap beat out of me most of the day. And he goes, "Franks," he goes, "don't overload your mouth with your ass, just shut up and play football, when you come out." Gave one of those meaningful lessons,
Yeah.
So after that, it worked out. I came back, but sure enough, I was looking at one of my scrapbooks that my mom made for me. And after that one article, a couple weeks later, there was another article that says Franks finally knocks Bergey on the ass.
Oh, yeah. So you finally got him.
I finally got him. Yeah, of course he wasn't looking.
You'll have to add that, though. That wasn't in the article.
I was just one tough son of a gun,
Yeah. Oh, nice, very nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to your transition out of football. So you played the 5 seasons in the NFL, but being that wasn't the long career that some people have. It's maybe just talk about how you kind of thought about transitioning. Was it something that you thought about year to year, or is it how did that come about for you?
Okay, well, Lyle, it was totally prompted by my experience in Philadelphia. I was there. I came back and made the team. I got cut. I got picked up by the Oakland Raiders, came back the next year and played and made it at the Philadelphia Eagles in '76. And I became actually their captain in '78. And my career was moving in the right direction. I was a special teams guy. I played guard, center, and backup tight end on short yardages. And going into the '79 season, the third game of the season, I find myself getting called up to the office and said they just moved me up to Detroit. And so it was like Tuesday after the third game that I had to pack up my house and get up to Detroit that Wednesday. and play for Detroit, and it was against Atlanta that Sunday. And, I went in and played on special teams, and they were giving me a shot, practicing being a starter and all. But ironically enough, I became a captain for the Detroit Lions
Oh, wow.
in that first year. And I'll tell you how it happened. Really strange is that the first game we went out, Detroit was another 4-12 team. I got into 3 fights that day, and all 3 fights during the game were with my own players.
Oh, wow.
And Monty Clark was the head coach. And finally, he grabbed me. Now, Monty's like 6'6", 6'7", 320. He was an offensive tackle in the NFL. He grabbed me and says, what the blank are you doing? I said, you got a bunch of assholes on this team. Nobody's playing, and I'm going to be fighting as long as I'm going to be here, as long as they aren't playing, And
Yeah.
next week, I'm captain of the friggin' team. And I thought he was going to kill me, but anyway, I got through the season. I went back home. I came back the following year. I started playing, and this is where the 5th season came in. I left like after the 3rd game, and primarily just told Monty that my heart wasn't in the game anymore.
Yeah.
I could have hung around, Lyle, for another 5 or 10 years just snapping the ball. I was a good long snapper. I did field goals and extra points and punts. And today, games could be won and lost with bad snaps.
Yeah.
But I was just like heartbroken after being traded out of Philadelphia because there was no free agency back then. Free agency didn't really start till '83. And so,
okay.
Today the game is so crazy, Lau. They literally play for their first contract. They don't really have loyalty to any team. It's like rookies are on a set salary, and you play for the first contract so you can renegotiate and bump up to the millions. They were just talking last night on the game with Pittsburgh annihilating the Carolina Panthers. This kid, Jimmy Connors, he's in his 2nd year. He's a superstar, but he's making about $450,000. And even next year, he's scheduled to make $531,000. But until he gets to the following year, he doesn't have to have a contract negotiation. So
Stuck on his rookie contract.
Yeah, it's totally different. But I left football. I had a real tough time. I went back thinking I can draw upon my education, that I was former Philadelphia Eagle, and somebody would give me a job. That's what I thought. Nobody would really offer me a job, at least a job that would pay me anything. I left at $136,000 a year. That was my income base at that time, which back, I guess, in late 70s, early 80s was decent. But it wasn't you can retire for life on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I went back and I tried to do it, and I worked, and it got very depressing. I went through some depression. I dealt with some drug problems. I got myself straightened up, and thank God for the people around me that basically said, you're not the same guy that you've always been. And I'm tipping like 300 pounds at the time. So I am a single 300-pound guy with no money and no girlfriend. So there was no reason for me to be happy about anything other than maybe smacking somebody, So it was pretty
So what do you draw on to get over that? How did you get through that tough time?
Well,
you said family was there to help you as well.
Yeah, friends, and primarily I didn't know where to start, but I started with myself. And basically, after making that decision, I lost 65 pounds, and I went down to 235. Which was close to my high school weight. It was 228 when I came out of high school. And everybody just says, wow, you look terrific. What are you doing? And the next thing you know, I started helping people get fit, lose weight, and I started a business. And in the next year and a half, profited over $1.5 million from starting a business. And I basically—
What was the business that you started?
Basically, it was working with weight loss and performance products, and I sold products that were part of a network marketing company called Cambridge Plan International. and
Okay.
it just blew up. And I was just amazed, how good it felt because I was helping people and I was making this ungodly amount of money. I mean, can you imagine back in 82, 83, making $150,000 a month? That was unheard of, you know,
Yeah.
even in the NFL. So you start thinking about that, and I said, "Wow, there's other ways to make money. This is pretty exciting." And every person was a challenge, so it always kept me, right on top of my game. But I had some ups and downs. The company went away, I went into another company. And, quite frankly, it was the start of a change in me, a focus from being Dennis the football player to Dennis the entrepreneur
Yeah.
and creating things from nothing into something. And I took a lot of the disciplines from football with me. It's amazing.
Yeah, a
Uh,
lot of the disciplines definitely transfer over to the business world that we learn in football and in sports to
mhm.
persevere and to be, you know, work hard and to strive and not give up and to do those type of things is definitely something that helps us in the business world as well.
Yeah, and you know what? So I went on for the net for 10 years in network marketing, and I sort of cashed out and I bought several franchises. And so I went that direction and found out franchising was crazy. That was just an expensive job. I never really had employees working for me, and then all of a sudden, working with employees, it became pretty crazy. And that wasn't the way to go. In fact, the businesses made me go back to network marketing, where I knew how to create time leverage and earn an income. And that's when I met my partner, J.R. Reidinger, back in April 1992, who came up with founding a company called Market America. And today we're a billion-dollar company. And we own shop.com, and we're very big into online shopping as well as setting entrepreneurs up in business and distribution and internet marketing. So it's been
Nice.
27 years as the executive vice president and part owner of Market America, with now offices in 9 countries around the world. It's been pretty
Oh, nice.
crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. Yeah,
yeah.
let's talk about what you're doing now. Some Market America is your business. Is there anything else that you're doing as well?
Yeah, I also want to share with the fact I'm now traveling as a motivational speaker, co-authored my first book with my great friend Vince Papali, who is the inspiration of a movie called Invincible,
Oh, yeah.
about a 30-year-old rookie. He was played by Mark Wahlberg. Uh,
Yeah.
Both Vince and Vince was the inspiration of the movie. I was also included in the movie. Um, I was honored the fact that he felt I played a big role in his success. And after 40 years of friendship, we got together and we decided, because he went on and became a great international speaker and author. This was his third book participating in, and my first. And I went on and took it in business, and we compared our notes. And we came up with this amazing code called the Victor's Code. And this is so cool. And I got to tell you about it because anybody that has the ability but really doesn't know how to apply it. We live by the code, and I'm going to just take a minute and I'll tell you about the code.
Okay.
It starts with vision, and basically, it is the ability for one to see. And a lot of people have dreams, but dreams can become fantasies or they can move towards reality. But we believe that a dream goes to vision, which is the laser approach of seeing yourself within the dream, which then makes it formidable to create a vision statement and then a plan of action to follow. Um, the code is followed by 6 more words that start with the letter V, supporting vision. The next one is valor, possessing the exceptional courage and determination that's needed in any success story. Then is vehemence, which is you got to be passionate as well as energetic in what you're doing. Then veracity. This is something a lot of people they don't live by, and it's important that they have integrity and speak the truth in the direction that they go. Vitality is the life force that we all need to be in shape so we can do the journey and rebound from those tough days. And then vigor, which deals with mental strength, overcoming the naysayers. How do you keep yourself going? We've got some really cool stories about fire-stoking principles, things that people use to keep their head in the right place. Everybody has, I'm sure you as an athlete did some things a special way before a game or a match on a regular basis. And then ultimately you reach victory. And victory is, of course, accomplishment of the aim or purpose you set out to in the vision. But what we really learned, and this was like a breakthrough, what we really learned was that victories just set up the foundation for your next vision. And we took all of that stuff that we were talking about, and this all happened over a couple beers, turned into several beers, and we started taking notes. And the next thing you know, he says, how do we know this is for real? So we created a Hall of Fame for our Victor's Code. And some of the people that we brought in was, for example, former NFL quarterback and now head coach of the Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh, actress and author Mariel Hemingway, also an Olympic soccer player, Heather Mitz-Feely. We used Brian Rutenberg, who was an award-winning painter and author, Coach Vermeil. All these people, we asked them to read our code and to see if the code applied to their success stories. And in the Hall of Fame, they talk about how the code applied to their last laugh. And that's the name of the book, Last Laugh, Vision to Victory. And it's available through shop.com and amazon.com or your favorite bookstores. But it's a great read. It really helps give people hope and direction. We like it, and we started to speak nationally, and we'll certainly come to Canada and speak internationally together for you.
Oh, cool. Cool. That's great for our Canadian listeners that you can look forward to seeing you up here as well. So yeah, we'll have links to the places where they can get those books and buy those books if they want to get those, and we'll have the links in the show notes for people that they can see that.
Wonderful. Yeah, and you can visit DennisFranks.com. We'll also give you a lot of information too. And you can also get the book through DennisFranks.com.
Okay, we'll add that as well. Okay, great. All right, Dennis, so let's finish off with the top of the mountain moment. So we're kind of looking back on your journey through football and where you are now. Is there a favorite story, things you want to share about how your journey has gone so far?
Well, the whole experience of playing big time college football and then getting to the NFL, dream come true for any youngster growing up that competes in sports, and for those of us that played back in high school and so forth. Of course, making the NFL was huge, but I remember something that was spectacular. After 17 years, something happened when we were playing the New York Giants. It was called the Miracle of the Meadowlands.
Yes.
Time was running out, and all the New York Giants had to do to win the game was to take a knee. But they took the snap and handed off, and in the exchange of the handoff, a fumble occurred. And Herm Edwards, who's now the head coach of Arizona State University, he picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown with no time left. The Philadelphia Eagles make the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. I could not ever imagine a more spectacular time of actual playing on the field and something happening and being a part of it. That was a great time. There was some certainly top of the mountain moments when being elected captain, realizing that you're elected captain by your teammates. So that was very good. If there was any regrets, I got to tell you, I'd look back and possibly say, could I have done better? Could I have stayed longer in the league? But then in reality, if I would have thought that my regret was I didn't play long enough, then I wouldn't have the beautiful family that I have today. I met my wife of 36 years after I left the game of football. and she's been the best thing to ever happen to me. So it's been phenomenal. But the top of the mountain was the experience of being part of the renaissance of the Philadelphia Eagles, and they went on to make it to Super Bowl 15. I was there with them. I was not playing, but I was there with them. Coach Vermeil embraced me to be part of the team because he felt I was part of that character that made the team a reality. And then, being in the Minnesota Dome, First Bank, when the Philadelphia Eagles beat the New England Patriots to win their first ever Super Bowl, I was in the stands, but it was the most amazing experience.
I can just imagine. Yeah.
Oh my God!
The fans in Philly must have been so wild. Yeah.
It was crazy. And I was part of that 2 million person parade. And I will say this: the Philadelphia's organization has embraced us as former players. They even call us legends, the Philadelphia Legends, and they include us all the time. And it's great to be part of the history of the Philadelphia Eagles and be part of that team that helped set it all off when we first made the playoffs. And so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I have to admit, I am a diehard Cowboys fan, but I was
well, then you're
Philly fans.
Night, buddy. We're going to talk again. We play, I think, Sunday night or Monday night football.
Yeah, they come up this week. No, that's right. That's right, this week. But I was going to say, for the fans of Philly who are such diehard fans and who love sports so much and so knowledgeable of the game, and for them to be able to finally get a Super Bowl was definitely a good moment for them. But hopefully not again for this year. But it's a great moment for them to win it all last year. That was great for them for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, just wanted to say thank you, Dennis, for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. You definitely have some great stories and great experience in the game and outside of the game. And just want to say thank you again. And before we go, just remind our listeners if they want to contact you, if they want to get your book, what are your contact information, your website, and all that.
It's real easy to find me. It's DennisFranks.com, and it's Franks with an S at the end, 2 N's, DennisFranks.com, DennisFranks.com. And my site will provide all types of great information and even the ability to buy a book. You can also go on Amazon.com or Shop.com, pretty much wherever books are sold, and be able to find The Last Laugh, Vision to Victory.
All right. So thank you, Dennis, again, and thanks for taking the time to be with me today. And we'll talk again sometime soon.
Thank you, Lau. I look forward to it.
Thank you for listening to After the Gridiron. If you're a fan of the show, please make sure you subscribe to the show and also leave a rating and review. By doing that, you also help to spread the word about the podcast and assist others in finding the show, so more people can enjoy this great content. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, with the links to those being found on the website. Your support is very much appreciated. Also, please visit the resources page on the website for links to our sponsors and affiliates. Your support helps to keep the show running, so go to www.atgridiron.com/resources to check them out. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you when we kick off our next episode.